Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig.
And I'm Sam.
And today we're going to be going into the AdMech Codex once again, and we're going to be asking the age-old question of a new codex of which is better, Vanguard or Rangers. Personally, I think they both have their play, and we're going to dive deep into this video about which ones you might want to consider in your army. If you're looking forward to this AdMech video, or if you are looking forward to other videos, please like and subscribe. Comment down below if you want to see other AdMech reviews like this. And let us know about your comments if you use the Rangers or the Vanguard. With that being said, let's get into the video. So today, to give you a little overview, before we get into it, we'll give you a little bit overview of what we're going to cover today. So we'll go with the datasheet reviews first. We'll touch on, the profile of the Vanguard, of the Rangers, and then all of the special and unique weapons that come with them as a separate slide. We'll go over some key stratagems that you might want to use when using your Rangers or Vanguard. Then we'll touch on the Forge Worlds. Most of them do give some benefits to either Vanguard, Rangers, or both, but we'll touch on them to make sure you guys know when you're building your army, it may determine which one you bring. Finally, we will touch on a few potential strategies and come to a conclusion at the end of this video, hopefully something you guys can take away from this in the end. With that being said, let's get into the first datasheet review. I'll start us off with the Rangers. So these are our long-range boys. They are a solid 8 points per model, very standard 6-inch move, 4+ weapon skill, 3+ ballistic skill, strength toughness 3, 1 wound, 1 attack, 2 on the alpha, leadership 6, and a 4-up save. They also have a 6-up invuln save, and their galvanic rifle has got a nice tweak in 9th edition. It is now heavy 2, at strength 4, AP -1, and a 30-inch range. Their other little bonus is that they have a 3-inch move at the start of the game. I don't know how much a 3-inch move is going to matter in the sake of many games.
We were talking about this a little bit before we started recording the video, thinking about what you could possibly use it for, because the caveat is that you still can't end within 9 inches of an enemy model. So it's nice to have, it's cool, it's interesting, but it's not, I don't think, like, game changing.
There might be some missions where, maybe you're not 6 inches away from the objective, maybe you're 9 inches away, so you can get a move with that 3 inches and you can hop on some objectives early game with it. I haven't looked at all of the maps to kind of lay that out, but that might work.
Sure.
It also, I think, no, that's gone anymore. Never mind. I was going to say you can do the Stratagems pregame move, but they lost that, and theirs is now something totally different.
Right.
So, it's something.
Yeah, it's a nice little piece of tactical utility.
But that's the Rangers, and now we'll go into the Vanguard. So for their basics, they're same exact stat line, so we won't read off all of them again. Their unique ability, they don't have the 3-inch move, but they have the rad saturation, which is while your non-vehicles are within engagement range of this unit, subtract 1 from the strength and toughness characteristic of that enemy unit. And that's pretty good.
Yeah.
At 1 inch though, it's tough to make use of it. It'll help you when you're going up against Space Marines or Sisters or Necrons. It'll help them in combat. The problem is they're not your combat guys, so you have to use them almost as a support for your infiltrators or your other close combat threats.
But they are going to be a lot closer than a lot of your other infantry models, and it forces your opponent to think about charging them, because I play Space Marines, and if I charge Space Marines into this unit, they're going to be hitting at the same strength and at the same toughness. So I haven't done the math or anything, but however much that increases their survivability, going from wounding on 3s to wounding on 4s and getting wounded on 4s instead of 5s.
Yeah, I think it's like a 12 to 16% decrease in their firepower or in their hitting power. So it is something, and it's nice that it is the strength now and not just the toughness. So it will help their survivability. And like you said, they are going to be your frontline soldiers. So they are going to be taking the brunt of combats and of shooting.
Definitely. So it's just one of the many ways that Skitarii are an incredibly durable and dangerous unit, is that even if you charge them with a close combat unit, you can't always rely on that to wipe them out.
Yeah, and then before we move on, we'll touch on their weapon. They are the opposite of the Rangers. They're close range, 18-inch range, assault 3 guns. They're only strength 3, 1 damage, but they have their unique rule that unmodified hit rolls of 6 automatically wound the target. So that'll help them when you're going up against bigger monsters or higher toughness things. You can at least guarantee some damage, even though it's a strength 3 gun. There are not as many monsters as there are vehicles or high toughness things that aren't vehicle. Unfortunately, this is great against Tyranids. This really hurts our big T8 bugs and our big T7 bugs. They're gonna, chew through with that. But what can you do? Skitarii are the new hotness right now.
Yeah, and even against, again, to go back to Space Marines, because that's my point of reference, just the ability for a strength 3 gun on an 8-point model to just shred through and just do wounds regardless of toughness kind of hacks through a big buff that Space Marines can tend to rely on, which is higher toughness than small arms fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are ways to buff all this. We'll touch on in the future, but these are just the basics that the Vanguard can do.
In a vacuum.
In a vacuum, yeah. So now for the special weapons, these are the same for both Rangers and Vanguard. So we'll talk about them here. They've got a couple special weapons: the arc rifle, the plasma caliber, and the arquebus.
Yes. Transuranic arquebus.
Yes, the big sniper. A little bit on each of them. The arc rifles are pretty good now. So 30-inch range, rapid fire. They synergize very well with the Rangers. So they kind of same range.
Yeah.
They'll have the same targets. They do well against vehicles, so that'll help them if you need to split fire off into some vehicles. D3 damage, or a damage characteristic of 3 against vehicles. So on a wound roll 4+. But so that's that. Plasma calibers are 2 shots. They're your standard plasma guns. Nothing fancy about them. They have longer range than plasmas, or at least,
And they're assault.
So those typically pair well with your Vanguard pretty well because they have the same kind of profile.
The old weapon of choice in the old codex.
Yeah, it's not. We'll touch on that at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then the arquebus. Technically, you can take these as both your Rangers and your Vanguard.
Why you would ever take them in Vanguard?
I don't know, but you can.
It's an option given to you if you so choose.
They're good. They're nice for if you have a few points left over and you're running some multiple small units of the Rangers and they're just backfield objectives. It forces your opponent to kind of think about, lanes of fire, putting characters out there.
Yeah, and it's also nice. They no longer have the caveat. They used to, if you moved, you just couldn't fire them at all.
Correct.
Now they're just standard heavy. You move and you fire at a -1 ballistic skill.
Which is great because there are ways to negate that moving and firing heavier weapons, as we'll touch on in the future.
And also just a funny story about Transuranic arquebi. The only time I think I've fielded my Fellblade in 8th edition, the thing that finally killed it was a Transuranic arquebus. Did a mortal wound, knocked the last wound off, and then it exploded.
That's true. So that did happen. The mortal wounds do work on vehicles, so nothing else, you can do some mortal wounds to those. So they also have 2 other Wargear options. They have the enhanced data tether, which is great now. It's even better than it was before. And they have the omnispecs, which ignoring light cover is nothing to scoff at. A lot of units do have a way to get light cover more and more now.
That Tyranid stratagem thing you ran on me the other day in our battle report with the Imperial Guard.
Yes, Jormungandr. That's what we have as light cover. So these omnispexes would just tear through Jormungandr. That is a good point.
Again, going back to Mechanicus, good matchup for Tyranids.
That's unfortunate. So then we get on to this absolute word mess at the bottom here. And this is important for anyone who's new and is struggling to understand this. We'll break it down for you. Think of it as the kits. So when you buy a kit, you can build one of each special weapon, and you can build one enhanced data tether or one omnispecs. That's what you can buy from one kit. So when you bring 10 models, you are allowed to upgrade them to have all of that. You can have one of each special weapon, and you can have one data tether or one omnispecs. Now, when you bring in a second kit, just multiply that. So now you have two of the exact same, so two of each special weapon. You can have one data tether or one omnispecs, or you can have both if you have 20 of them.
Is there any reason to take two omnispexes or two data tethers?
No, I don't think you technically can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's I understand why they worded it this way. It is a little annoying. We won't dwell on this too much, but it is confusing, and hopefully for any of you new guys, it helps explain a little bit more why it is worded the way it is.
And in the grand scheme of Games Workshop Wargear word salad, this is a pretty mild entry. If you look at something like Plague Marines, it gets way worse.
Yeah, they also have it pretty bad. So,
gone are the day of Wargear lists.
Yeah,
is what it is.
So yeah, just think of this as, what can you build out of one kit? That's what you can bring. What can you build out of two kits? That's what you can bring. No other weird customization mix and match.
Right.
Very straightforward by the box.
WYSIWYG to the extreme.
Yep. So now that we've gone over the data sheets, let's go over some key stratagems if you want to be bringing these to think about whether you're using them or to when you're deciding which one is better for you. The first one, Universal, Wrath of Mars. A 20-man squad of either Vanguard or Rangers is under the power level cap, so it will always be worth one command point when you're using them.
So it's based off power level, not unit size?
It is based off of power level.
Okay.
So for when you're dealing with them, it's always going to be 1 CP on Wrath of Mars. Unmodified wound roll of 6, do a mortal wound, and you are capped at 6 mortal wounds.
Right. But for how many command points you're going to have and the ways you have to get them back, that's pretty good to be able to just do mortal wounds on a wound roll of 6, especially when you're rolling as many shots as you're going to be rolling.
Yeah, if you're bringing a big squad, especially a Vanguard, or if you use another stratagem you'll see here for Rangers, you are pretty guaranteed to get those 6 mortal wounds. I mean, I can't say you're guaranteed, but odds are you get, 4 to 6 of them.
Right.
It's just, I mean, it's one command point. You don't have a ton as AdMech. I wonder if it's worth it. It could be, depending on what you're shooting. If
you have a tank that just has a few wounds left and you need to kill it that turn, and all you have to shoot it with is a Rangers or Vanguard, one command point would be worth it.
It would be worth it. Or if you've got, something high invuln save, you got the new Sisters Sacrosands. The Sacrosands with their 4-up invulns. You got almost all Space Marine close combat nowadays has 4-up invulns.
Right.
It's just a nice way to chew through those. The next stratagem is Overloaded Systems. This is for your arc rifles. And basically, we had the stratagem over here because it is wordy, but we'll just...
This is brand new to me. I've never seen this one before, but it's super interesting.
It works as if you damage a vehicle with your arc rifle, you pay 1 command point if it's a standard vehicle, 2 command points if it's a Titanic vehicle, and then until your next command phase, your opponent must count their wounds remaining as half when referring to their damage table. So if you do, let's say you shoot a knight and you do 4 wounds, and then you shoot it with an arc rifle, and you bring it down to 6 wounds, or bring it down 6 wounds, now it's at 18. Well, then you pay a command point, or 2 command points, and now it's acting like it's on 9.
Yeah.
So that'll hinder the shooting of the knights, the close combat capabilities. They do have a way to counteract that. They can act as full, but now you're forcing them to spend command points.
Right. It's an interesting edge case, especially with Iron Hands or other armies. I think Valhallans have it as well, where your units can act the vehicles act as if they're doubled on the wound chart.
Yep.
It's it's an interesting edge case. We think it just cancels out.
I think it would, yeah.
So if there is anything specific that anybody knows about that, let us know because we're curious. But still, it's especially if you're not, a Space Marine or a Knight where you have a naturally high ballistic skill and weapon skill,
yes.
It's going to cripple you, because what I experienced going from having Space Marine shooting to using Imperial Guard shooting, you already are at a 4-up ballistic skill, which for me is a degraded profile on one of my tanks. Yep. And going from a 4-up ballistic skill to a 5-up ballistic skill it drastically reduces the amount of effective offensive output that any of my vehicles have.
That is a good thing to note, because you can pair this with if you're Styges, giving yourself it's just cover anymore. No, it's dense cover. So -1 to hit. So now a vehicle could be working at -2 to hit, and because it's a modification to the ballistic skill and a modification to the die roll, you could be giving a certain key vehicle -2 to their ballistic skill. It's got its place. I think an arc rifle is almost mandatory in all squads, just in case to use, because they're not that much more.
And
point.
Especially because now you can't take 3 plasma calibers in a squad, so you have more of an option to go with other weapons.
And they're cheaper, and they still do good damage. So I think it's definitely worth taking them just to have a chance to use this stratagem. The next stratagem we'll go to that is generic to both is Infoslave Skulls. So this is like the Space Marines with Aspect Scan or something.
Aspect Scan, yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, it's just it's one of my least favorite stratagems to go up against. So I'm happy and I'm upset the AdMech got one of these two.
Yeah. And does this have the caveat? Aspect Scan has a -1 ballistic skill modifier to the shooting. Does this have the same?
I do not believe so. Okay. Let me check. So there's no modification to your web skill. It is only a core unit, so it limits you to basically your Vanguard, your Rangers, which is why we're talking about it, but also you can use it on your Iron Striders and things like that. But 12 inches, putting your Vanguard or your Rangers on the edge of the board and then forcing your opponent's strategic reserves to come within range of them is...
Not only can you zone out for deep strike and reserves, but you make it that much more dangerous to even do it, because then you're just going to get shot.
Yeah, it is pricey. Again, 2 command points. Most AdMech competitive lists, or just lists in general, I think you're only going to be starting with 7 or 8 command points.
Sure.
But so going through 2 is a good portion of your command points, but it can be crucial if you're going up against, say, Tyranids. We love dropping our lictors in to do our stratagems. Now, you drop a lictor and it's going to get obliterated before it can do anything.
Yeah, because then that's costing you a drastic amount of strategic point or victory points.
Yes.
Because now you can't do any of your objectives that you would have relied on the lictor to do.
Yeah, this is a good stratagem, and I think it'll work. It's probably going to be used best on Rangers, holding the back corners of your table quarter, but we'll see when the game plays out. Now for the 2 specific stratagems, both the Vanguard and the Rangers have their own specific ones. The Vanguard is enriched rounds, 1 command point, hit rolls of 4+, auto wound. Just absurd.
Yeah, for 1 command point, if you can take a 20-man blob, that's
60 shots.
60 shots, that's a lot of auto wounding hits.
That's 30 auto wounds.
That goes back to what I was saying about, Space Marines and other higher toughness, Custodes, stuff like that, relying on being able to shrug off just generic small arms fire. You can't do that with something like this. You're going to feel 60 shots wounding on 4s.
That's going to hurt. I mean, even the biggest of Tyranids is they can't take small arms. Their save against small arms fire is that they're T8 or T7. If they go bypass the toughness, well, now you're looking at 3-up saves. You're going to get shredded. And then you could put AP on these too. So now they could be at AP -1. They're going to get shredded by this cheap 8-point unit.
Yeah.
Well,
8 point per model.
8 points. So it'll come out to be about 200 depending on how you upgrade them. Just under 200.
But if a 200-point blob of 20 infantry can put out that much damage, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. The points. The other one for the Rangers is Galvanic Volley Fire. This one is 2 CP. I feel like Enriched Rounds has to be 2 CP as well.
In Enriched Rounds, that feels like because the relative comparison of like the how well it modifies the performance of the unit. 2 command points to go from rapid fire or heavy to rapid fire versus 1 command point to auto wound on 4. That's not really comparable.
I don't think so. All to note, if you're watching this later than when it's released, we are recording this pre-FAQ for the AdMech. I'm trying to wait to do too much of the AdMech before the FAQ because they always change a couple things. I thought the Rangers and the Vanguard were going to be relatively safe from changes. This is one of the only things I could see them changing. But
right, just that's, you know, I could see that flip the command points. 1 command point for galvanic volley fire and 2 command points for enriched rounds.
I mean, I think they're both 2 because now for galvanic volley, this you only use, just like the other one, on a big 20-man block. Now if you're within 15-inch range, you are doing 80 shots.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I hadn't considered that.
So it's not,
at AP -1.
so it's not, because they're 2 shots apiece, so a full squad is 40, and now they're 80, and you can get those to be AP -2 or 3 depending on how you upgrade them.
Right.
Sure, they're only strength 4, but when you have 80 shots,
yeah, at AP -1, that's gonna hurt.
that'll hurt. You'll only wound your Tyranid, your big Tyranids on 6s. But when you got 80 shots and you're gonna get like 70 of them to hit, you're gonna wound them with, you know, at least 10 or 12, and then they're gonna chunk right through the armor.
Right.
It's
nasty.
It's nasty. So things to consider. Again, only use those on your big 20-man blocks just to get the most out of the command points. Something to consider though. Now, let's touch on the Forge Worlds. I think before we go into this, for the most part, I would not build your Forge Worlds or choose your Army Forge Worlds based on your infantry, with the exception of Lucius, which we will touch on. But we're just going to talk on it, and maybe if you look at these and say, hey, the rest of my army fits these, how will my Rangers or my Vanguard fit in? So we'll get the first one. Mars, they get access to Mechanicals. Great. Everyone says it. Everyone knows it. You can't go wrong with Mars. They're just so good.
They're the biggest, the oldest, the best for a reason.
You can't go wrong with Mars. So if you play Mars, play Rangers, Vanguard, however you want. It's not going to change.
Right.
Lucius, this is like I said, this is going to, if you're playing Lucius, you might want to tool into them differently. Specifically, the big 20-man blobs of Vanguard, I think, might edge out the Rangers in this one.
Because what I'm thinking, if you can deep strike a 20-man unit right off the bat, and then use the enriched rounds, that's just like instantly you could, you know, shred a unit or kill a big monster. Yeah,
it does a lot of damage there. So Lucius, I think 1 or 2 20-man blobs of Vanguard is dangerous. Rangers, still great because you can deep strike into rapid fire range. So it still works absolutely.
Both of the custom stratagems have great synergy with Lucius.
Which is why I think you'll see it as the other top one compared with Mars. But so there's that one. Agrippina or Agrippinae.
Agrippina.
Agrippina? Is that how you?
Agrippina? I don't know. I've never heard these words pronounced. I only ever read them. So sometimes I have completely borked pronunciations.
No, this isn't. So Connor and I agreed on Agrippina, but as a joke, we said Agrippinae because Skitarii.
Yeah.
So Agrippinae. I don't know if it works that way.
Agrippina?
Agrippina. I like it.
Whatever it is.
So this one, you can get extra AP on your Rangers. If you're within half range, you get extra AP on all of your weapons. So you already want to be in half range to do the rapid firing. Now, when you rapid fire, you're at AP -2. That'll just, you know, amp up the damage of that.
That hurts.
So that's one thing to think about. Garaya, we don't like them that much, but you can auto pass your combat attrition test. So if you're bringing the big blobs, you don't have to worry as much, but, you know, whatever. Styges, dense cover. Is always great. It's just another way to keep your units alive. So it doesn't really affect one or the other. Yeah,
it's just, it kind of plays into the one of the benefits, or one of the things that's good about Skitarii is just the amount of ways that you can make them more survivable, and this is just another aspect of that.
You could argue that the dense cover slightly favors the Rangers because it's 12 inches on core units, so you can stay that much farther out of range of enemy fire or enemy combat. something. They also have deep strike capabilities like Lucius, so you could play a big blob and still deep strike them that way.
Sure.
You just don't have access to as many buffs as you do in Lucius.
Right. Okay, cool.
Ryza, I put him in here. +1 wound and +1 to charge is good.
Yeah.
But you're
Probably
not really going to be doing it with
Yeah,
him.
probably not +1 to charge on Skitarii unless, I don't know, you really need to get something in close combat.
Yeah, so like I said, you probably don't want to build around them, but it's what happens.
You could get a squad of Vanguard if you really needed to get them into close combat with something else to get the rad saturation.
Combat Vanguard.
Yeah.
So, Metallica is the final one. This is great for all of them, ignoring the penalty to moving and firing heavy weapons and assaulting and firing assault weapons.
Sure.
So,
Because Ranger rifles are heavy weapon right off the bat, so.
So it you know.
Yeah, so.
Good.
Always, any way to make your unit shoot better is always good.
Yeah. And then the custom forge worlds, you can play into them, but I just focused on the one rad saturation one, which -1 strength for incoming ranged attacks. And then the other one you can pick on is +1 strength and an extra AP to your radium weapons. So this one is for a Vanguard spam.
Yeah. Just natural synergy there.
Yeah, it is pretty much, it feels like it's designed to just flood the board with Vanguard. And it could be fun. I don't have enough Vanguard to do that.
Yeah. I can't, it's always, thinking of like counterplay and how I would deal with that. I'm just not sure how I would deal with that many, units that are tanking strength from my shots and are just hard to kill.
Yeah, it would be tough because now not only your radium carbine's actually good because they're an extra strength and they have an AP built into them, and you can make them even better on top of that.
And they auto wound still.
They still auto wound, but now their strength, so your bolters coming into them are now only wounding on 4s.
Yeah.
So it could be good if you have a lot of Vanguard, like 60 or 70 of them. Try it out. Let us know if you've tried it. I think it could be fun, but I don't know what the competitive nature is to it.
Right. That's the beauty of 40K.
Yeah, those are the Forge Worlds. We'll touch on just a few strategies. We've mentioned these a little bit in the videos, but I'm going to touch on them. So, like we said, the Lucius Ranger bomb / Vanguard bomb. This is the one real key strategy you can do with Vanguard and Rangers besides just using, them as your backfield support or your frontline support. The ability to teleport them into serious threat range and then using those key stratagems is absolutely insane. So like we said, the Rangers can dump 80 rifle shots.
It's gross.
And that's basic because you can also have your Manipulus like we have at the bottom, can give all of them extra range and an extra AP. So none of those things could be at AP 2. A rule, I'm 99% sure this is still a thing, but when you add range to a weapon, you are not adding range to the rapid fire. The rapid fire is still always based on the profile.
Interesting. I thought that was one of the benefits of it, that it increased your rapid fire.
No, it does not. They FAQ'd it in the past, so I don't think they've come out specifically and said it, but they have FAQ'd it multiple different places multiple times. So something to think about when you buff your range by 6 inches, your rapid fire does not get buffed by 3 inches. It's still the basic range. Okay. Anyway, so that's the Ranger one. The Vanguard one, same thing. You can deep strike or teleport your 20-man Vanguard squad with I have rad saturation. It's not rad saturation. It's the
enriched rounds.
Enriched rounds. Thank you. I'll fix that for you guys. Enriched rounds. So 60 Vanguard shots, 40 wounds. And that's not including the 3s that hit as well that you also still roll to wound for, so it's at least 40 wounds on average, but you could get, like 45 wounds.
Yeah, it's gross. It's a lot of wounds. It's really hard to deal with something like that right off the bat. And
if you can teleport them right, you can basically just gum up your opponent's front line for a turn or two because they have to dedicate a good chunk of their army to clean out that unit.
Right.
So if you just line up the front of your, sure you have to stay 9 inches away, but you line them up so they can't
you can't move through that.
You can't move through it.
And it's especially, for a tournament player, they've probably thought about these, but if I played against Craig without doing this video first, He would probably do something like that to me, and I'd have no idea, and then I would be really sad when one of my units gets deleted.
Yeah, so then the more buffs to add on top of this, so your marshals, you can let them reroll ones to hit and wound if you upgrade them.
Okay, so marshals have captain and lieutenant buff profiles?
They have captain rerolls for core, and you can give them a relic, which gives them also lieutenant ones.
Okay, gotcha.
And then the manipulus can buff them to give them 6 inches extra range, and they can give them an extra AP. On top of that, you're playing Lucius, so damage 1 weapons, you get +1 save against. You can give your manipulus or another manipulus, or you can give the Princep to your Vanguard Alpha. You can give him the telemetry cache, which makes them count as in light cover.
Sure.
So now their 4-up save is a 3-up save, and they're getting extra save against damage 1 weapon, so now it's a 2-up save. The manipulus can also make them ignore AP -1 and 2 with a warlord trait from Lucius.
So that's like all the weapons you'd want to use to kill something like Skitarii are now...
Do nothing.
Do nothing, yeah.
2-up saves. They will shrug them off for days. I mean, it's all your eggs in one basket, but dang.
That's a chunky basket.
That is a durable basket. In the game we played, that squad that I teleported 2 squads. One of them turn 1, one of them I waited until turn 3 to do it. The one of turn 1, they never died. He brought them down to like 3 models left, and that was through, shooting of immortals and charging of wraiths. And wraiths are a great counter to these things because they have a lot of attacks and they're damage 2 and they're high strength.
Sure.
So wraiths are a great counter, but it's just it's so good.
It always comes down to the point per model versus what it takes to get rid of them. Buffs, command points, everything. It all just makes a really skewed ratio that forces your opponent to use way more effort and firepower.
There's just a few too many buffs in this codex.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to make the Vanguard 9 points a model, because what if you're bringing in a 5-10 man squad to just hold an objective? It might be too much. But when you stack 10 buffs on one unit, well, okay, then of course they're gonna be pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's layers upon layers.
Yeah. So those are the 2 main strategies. Everything else they're pretty standard. Frontline, you got your Vanguard for frontline, your Rangers for backline. We'll get into, the conclusion. Basically, both are solid choices. I would not say there is one that is better than the other.
They played a different strengths.
They played a different strengths, and it might depend on your Forge World you're using. We did point out there are a couple Forge Worlds that benefit the Vanguard more, and there are a couple Forge Worlds that benefit the Rangers more. If you're playing one of those, maybe stick to playing Rangers or Vanguard only. They still have close to the same durability, and they have about the same damage output too.
Right.
So again,
they just do it different ways.
Or if you're they do it different ways. Or if you're playing Mars, or anything else, take a mix of them. I would use, unless you're going to bring the big blob of Rangers, I would only use the Rangers for small 5-10 man squads of sitting on backfield objectives, hiding out of line of sight, just being that objective secured nuisance in the back. They're very cheap for that. Vanguard, same way. Bring the big blobs, or just bring squads to gum up the front line. Now, I do think a unit of 20 Vanguard has a place in more armies than a unit of 20 Rangers, just because they have a little bit more of the durability or the close range potency.
Sure. And especially if enriched round stays 1 command point.
Yes, that's the other thing, is that is good on... Though you don't want to necessarily use it on 10-man squads, it's still great, and it can still guarantee some damage. But just Vanguard gumming up the front lines, it's hard to say to stray away from that. But that's kind of it for the most part. I think they're both, like we said, both great. I'm curious to hear from you guys, what you guys think. I know this video is designed for newer players who are just getting into the codex. They've looked at it, they say, wow, look at all this stuff. It kind of helps them just kind of put the pieces in order here.
Look at this weird Wargear list.
Especially that. Hopefully we simplified that for you guys. I see people ask that every day. I'll get something out there that explains it for people. But let us know what you think.
Yeah.
If you like this kind of video and you want to see more from the AdMech Codex, or if you're happy and you want to see more from the Tyranid Codex, please like and subscribe. Comment down below what other units, factions, whatever you want to see us cover. We are happy to do it within reason. Gosh, we're not going to go out and buy and look at some armies we just don't have the experience for.
We don't have the experience or the money.
That's true. So support us at also some of the links down below. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned next time to another video.